Yeah, that's why I said it. You do get this initial malt sweetness.
The taste just doesn't, it's not that present.
The wizards like brought the beer knowledge to the world.
Welcome back to Beer Brackets, everybody, and welcome to the third annual St. Patrick's Day celebration. I feel like, we've got a little bit more white in our beards, buddy. We're getting there. Your beard is growing quite lusciously over there, I must say.
It's the beer beard.
It's the beer beard. I love it. This has got to be, we have some great times of year to celebrate when it comes to the beer world. Oktoberfest, the holidays, just the holidays alone. But St. Paddy's Day has got to be my favorite, buddy, and I love this. And this year we are finally doing a full review on Smithwick's premium red ale. It's been featured on the channel a couple of times before. We've talked about Smithwick's, but we've never dug deep into it like we can only do with a Beer Brackets beer review. Now, my friend, I don't know if you know this, but Smithwick's, at its root, is a monk beer.
Kilkenny, the marble city in the heart of Ireland, has grown from two monastic sites and its famous castle. St. Francis Abbey was founded by the Franciscans in the 12th century. It's thought that a community of about 50 monks once lived here. The brewing tradition in Kilkenny originated in the early 1300s with these monks. John Smithwick founded his brewery in 1710 on the site of the old Franciscan Abbey.
I did not know that, my friend.
And we love our monk beers. If you've been following the channel, you definitely know that. It's got a really, really interesting history. I mean, John Smithwick started brewing this particular red ale back in the 1700s. And then that brewery was still active until the 80s when it was bought out by Guinness, then eventually Diageo. And then that brewery was shut down. But it's still like a museum. You can go tour. You can do the Smithwick's experience over in Kilkenny. You can actually see the ruins of the old abbey there on the grounds. It's pretty incredible. But then they moved to the main Diageo hub there at the St. James Gate Brewery in Dublin, so Smithwick's is brewed there along with Guinness. But yeah, originally, and the monks had been brewing beer at that monastery back into the 14th century, so back into the 1300s. My friend,
those wizards are always involved. Like, if the more you dig in the stories, like, you always get down to the same. Like, there's those wizards like brought the beer knowledge to the world.
You know what? It's always the same common thread. It's always the wizards at the heart of the beer world. It's just incredible. That's one of the main things that I've been so happy that we've discovered on this beer journey of ours over the last couple of years doing this channel, is just the influence that the wizards have had. I got to ask you, I don't know what Smithwick's was to you when you were growing up in Italy, but in Canada, it's really interesting because Smithwick's was the highest selling imported ale in Canada in the 1990s. That changed once 2000 hit, but from 1993 to 2000, it was the highest selling import. And I was reading that Diageo, or Guinness at the time, eventually Diageo, was really making an effort to broaden their sales on Smithwick's, and they chose Canada as one of the places to really heavily export it to. But was it really accessible in Europe?
I mean, it was definitely more accessible than other brands coming from other countries, at least like in Italy. So I've seen it. I remember seeing it at pubs. I can remember seeing it in a couple of, more selected beer stores. I will say my really first experience with it was when I went to Ireland, when I actually had it there on tap.
Yeah.
I might have tried it before, but if I did,
the freshest experience,
like always, like when you go and you try the beer in the place where it's made, like it's a completely different experience.
It's the best. It's the best beer experience. The beer is fresh. You're having it in the right beer environment. All the ingredients are there to make the perfect beer soup that is experiencing Smithwick's in that case. But I think we have the perfect intro to this beer now. I think we should crack it open and get right into this review. What do you think?
Let's do it, my friend. And once again, it seems like you're sticking with cans, like not, I'm sure, by choice, and I have the bottles.
I know, right? And that'll be interesting. I mean, we'll see if that plays a part in creating any kind of differences during the review or not. For some reason, the U.S. just imports a lot more bottles than Canada does. Canada seems to be very partial to the cans.
It's interesting. The last few we have had the opportunity. Like, it's always been like opposite on that.
I know, right? Isn't that funny? Well, here we go. What better way to get in the mood for St. Patrick's Day than to have a nice Smithwick's, my friend? Look at that. Look at that beautiful dark ruby color that it gets.
Isn't that amazing?
No, aroma cheers, buddy. Let me know what you
Aroma
think.
cheers to you, my friend. See, I always forget, like, I don't buy it often, and I should buy it more often, like, but I always forget, like, those subtle notes, and it's so good. You have all those, like, I think the main thing, obviously, is malt forward, right? Like, we probably anybody will agree on that, like, it's malt forward, but the character of that malt, like, it almost has, like, this caramel, like, and it has, like, those biscuity notes, you know. It's not quite bread, like, it's almost like a cookie kind of.
Like a mild biscuitiness.
Yes, exactly. And then, you know, obviously there are hops, beautifully balanced with all of that, like, pack. Like, this is very nice. I'm really enjoying this aroma. I think I'm gonna start quite high here. I'm gonna go with the 2, my friend. Like, I think this is actually very, very pleasant.
Yeah, you know, I always forget how kind of hoppy, and I noticed you didn't really mention hops too much in the aroma, and that could be a difference between the can and the bottle, so that's an interesting point right there. But the first thing I thought when I took a whiff of this was it reminds me of almost like a very light lager. Like, I'm getting a little bit of maltiness, but I'm also getting some hoppiness in there, and I would never guess that this is a red. Because it's very subtle. It's very light. Normally, reds will have a lot more maltiness, a lot more sweetness on the aroma to them. This is just very sort of subtle, very sweet. It's really nice. It's really inviting. It makes you want to go in and take a sip. I would lose my mind over this beer if it had a little bit more malty, like sweet maltiness on the aroma, a little bit more breadiness. I think it would just be perfect. It does what it does. It's meant to be a really light, easy drinking red ale. So it serves a purpose, but I think I'm going to go 1.5 on the aroma. We've talked before in reviews about how 1.5 is like, there's nothing wrong. 1.5 is just like a base point where, like, this is good. It's not doing anything monumental. It's good. Now, my friend, cheers. Let's take a taste.
Cheers.
Happy lead up to St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. First sip is always like the sweetest.
First sip is always the best.
Interesting on the palate, you do get this initial malt sweetness, for me at least, like a little bit of those biscuity notes. Caramel hits like right after, but then for me on the palate more than on the nose, like you start getting more of that hop presence, or at least the maltiness kind of disappears. I think the hop presence like obviously builds up, but that maltiness like goes away pretty quickly and doesn't leave any kind of like oily stickiness. It's actually quite nice. I think I almost miss a little bit more of that maltiness considering the color. 1.5 I think is fair here. What do you think, my friend?
Every time I drink this beer, I feel like I'm wishing that there was more. It's such a pleasant drinking experience. Everything's really light. You're joking around about this before, how it's kind of like this is Ireland's light beer. This is almost like their Coors Light, right? It's like either a Guinness or a Smithwick's. So if you don't want a Guinness, you just drink a Smithwick's. I think you're 100% spot on with that one because it has a lot of characteristics that light beer do in the sense that the taste just doesn't, it's not that present. A little bit of that barley, a little bit of hops, a little bit of breadiness, but it's really subtle. I think I'm going to stick with a 1.5 too. Just sort of like good. Yeah. Nothing outstanding. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's nothing like super memorable about it, but it's good. Yeah, 1.5. Now, my friend, it's time for a good old Irish mouthfeel refresher. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Oh, look at that. I gotta say, it's such a beautiful looking beer though. Like it's that dark ruby. It's almost like, you know how Guinness is actually like really, really dark ruby, but everybody thinks of it as being black. This is just like a little bit brighter, so you can see it when the light shines through it. You can see the dark ruby red. But man, these Irish beers, like they get that dark ruby color so well. With that beautiful head on it too.
Yeah, I was noticing that like the carbonation is just so, and it stays. Like, look, it's just awesome.
I can tell you're analyzing the barometer. The gears on the barometer are turning.
All the indicators, right? Yeah, it's the mouthfeel, in my opinion, it's probably one of the most interesting things about this beer.
It is, hands down, it is. Yeah.
Coming from if you're thinking about, aroma and taste, you are kind of expecting a certain style of beer. But then the mouthfeel like changes completely. It has this very fluffy carbonation. Like I don't know how a better word to describe it, but very fluffy. It's not creamy. It has some elements that might remind that, but that fluffiness of the mouthfeel. And it's very it goes away quickly. I quite like that. It has a very unique character, so I think I'm gonna go again like with the 2 here on the mouthfeel.
Nice.
Like I really enjoy that. What do you think, my friend?
Yeah, it's really fluffy. It's a really pleasant, refreshing mouthfeel. I agree with you. I think it's the mouthfeel is the best part of this beer by far. I'm gonna go with a 2 as well. It's really well done, but the finish, I think, is where all the for me personally, I think all the character in this beer beyond the mouthfeel is in the finish. That's my opinion. But what do you think?
So the finish is again like extremely interesting because you have that bitterness that has been building up. But then if you wait long enough, you find like those almost like slightly burnt edges of roastiness on a cookie or on a biscuit. And they linger very well with that bitterness in a very pleasant way, leaving this like nice, goodbye, this Irish goodbye that goes.
But wait, an Irish goodbye is leaving without saying bye. Exactly. Is that what the finish is doing?
Yeah. That's why I said it.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Oh my god.
This is the Irish, and it's funny enough. Like I learned about that once I moved here to the U.S. I didn't know about that before. And
you didn't know about that term, the Irish goodbye?
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it. But then, like a friend of mine, like was like, yeah. It's you never heard of that? Like it's Irish goodbye. It's just when you just leave, and that's great.
When I was like in my party days back like 19, 20, that was a thing I'd always do. It was just like it was a joke. I'd always do the Irish goodbye. At the end of a party, I'd always just slip out without telling everybody, where'd Joe go? Joe just disappeared at the end of the night. Disappeared into the night.
That's what Smithwick is doing with the finish, in my opinion, because all elements are there, and you're just looking and you say, oh, it's exciting, and then you turn and where are they?
That's so perfect.
I think I'm gonna stay. I think I'm gonna stay with a 1.5 because everything is very well done. But I really like that Irish goodbye. But I think I almost wish it stayed around like a little more to just say like, hey, by the way, this, and then fade.
You almost wish that the finish stuck around long enough to close its beer brackets at the end of the night and properly say goodbye.
Exactly.
At the end of the party, but no, it just took off, climbed out a window and ran away.
Exactly.
This is a tough one because, again, I really think that the finish is where most of the character is on this beer. I've always been really torn with Smithwick's, to be honest with you, because I'm always left wanting more. I like it. It's like it's the most refreshing, easy drinking red ale I've ever had in my life. I could easily drink so many of these if you kept serving them up and filling up the glass. Like you would never. It's almost like water going down. It's so easy drinking. But there is more character on the finish than on the taste. But like you said, it just disappears so quickly. A little bit of maltiness, a little bit of hops, but not enough of it to really discern any kind of memorable flavor out of it. And then it's just gone. It's like completely gone without even saying slancha, just out the door. I'm going to go with 1.5. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair on the finish. There's nothing bad there. So it's that standard middle ground. Now that we've gone through the first 4 review elements, as an overall Irish beer experience on this lead up to St. Patrick's Day 2023, what do you give Smithwick's Red Ale?
I will say that it is a beer that, in my opinion, like really does like few things, but does them extremely well. And it has like those elements like all in the right place. and they are all right where they need to be. And I think, the overall, like, is going to reflect that. I think 1.5 is fair in the sense that there are some elements that are surprising me, but
Yeah.
when I think about it as an overall, like, I think the 1.5 is where I would probably gonna end. What do you think, my friend?
Again, I'm so torn on this beer because it's so easy drinking, and it's kind of like, even as far as like a light beer goes, it's got such a smooth finish to it that you could just keep drinking it and keep drinking it and keep drinking it. Like, it's almost like it's a non-alcoholic beverage. It's so smooth. There's no harshness to it whatsoever. It just goes down like water. It's always been interesting to me. It's always been fascinating to me for that reason, just how smooth and how carbonated it is, like that silky smooth carbonation that it has. If it's a nice hot Irish day and you're by the sea, and I could really see cracking open a Smithwick's and sitting out on a patio and enjoying a nice ice cold pint. Today, as an overall beer experience from beginning to end, I think I'm going to stick with a 1.5 as well, my friend, because it's still leaving me wanting more. As interesting as it is as a light, easy drinking beverage, I wish there was a little bit more taste to it. I wish there was a little bit more on the finish. I just want to taste. I want to taste those malts. I want to taste the hops a little bit more, and you just don't get it with this. So calculating our final scores to give it a score on 5. For myself, it came out to a 2.66 on 5, which in our rating system is a good beer. For Alessandro, it came out to a little bit higher, 2.86 on 5, which is still a good beer in our rating system. If you are curious about our rating system, as always, I'll put a link to it down below to read a little bit more about it. Check out past beer ratings. And if you do enjoy these episodes and you want to have more beers with us and stay along on this beer journey, make sure to click subscribe and that notification bell down below. The notification bell, that beer bell that you see down below, I wish we could make it a beer shape, beer mug shape, just like the beer bracket sign. But it's important. If you don't hit that, you're not going to get notified of new episodes, and you're going to miss all the delicious beers that we could have together in the future. We'd love to have you for more beer, so stick around. Cheers, everybody.
Don't do the
And stay
Irish
tuned.
goodbye. Click the bell.
Yeah, don't do an Irish goodbye. Don't just leave without hitting the notification bell, okay? Do a proper goodbye.
And don't forget to close the beer brackets either. That's important.
Stay tuned. We have plenty more episodes coming on this lead up to St. Patrick's Day, so stay tuned to the channel for that. Cheers, everybody. Sláinte, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers. Sláinte.